So a year ago, I jumped into the ROG Ally really just for you guys to review, because a lot of you guys wanted to see what this thing was like. But over the span of actually using it, there were a lot of things that I really liked a lot about it as it pertained to gaming, because having basically a PlayStation 4 equivalent in the palm of your hand to play your games anywhere is an amazing feat. But I really fell in love with this once I realized that there were practical, real-world applications outside of gaming, like for my work, made this more than just a gaming console, but we'll talk more about that later. Multiple long-term reviews looking at all of the updates that ASUS was pushing out for the ROG Ally and transformed the ways that I use this on a day-to-day basis. And to this day, still using my family, and I actually just had a trip to Buffalo, and this was my absolute best friend for the entire trip there and the entire trip back. And now we have the Ally X, and a huge thank you to ASUS for actually sending this to me an entire week before you guys are able to get this in store, because it's given me a lot of comprehensive time with the Ally X, so I know the ins and outs and the ups and downs, what you guys can expect going to this from this. If you're looking to make that jump, this has been a great experience. But if you guys are new here, my name is Dave, and this is where tech meets lifestyle. Now, to clear up any confusion here, I'm going to run you guys first through the things that are not different here. So you're getting the same size screen, you're getting the same fidelity screen, and you're going to be getting the same exact chipset. And although having the same chipset sounds worrisome, I'm going to run you guys through some benchmarks a little bit later on, and I think you'll be happy about what you see. Those are the things that are the same, and I'm going to run you guys through an entire list of things that are very different, that do make a tangible difference when you actually pick up the Ally X and you actually use it. Now, you're no longer getting this XG mobile port on the Ally X like you had on the Ally and other ASUS devices. So what that means is that you can't use the proprietary eGPUs that ASUS would make, which pack immense power like their 4090 series. But what you do get here is an additional Thunderbolt USB-C port. What that means is that you can use basically any eGPU on the market. And so not having this is a downer, but having the Thunderbolt port here with additional flexibility of getting anything on the market, I think is a really nice plus. Also, this is something that would only impact you like in the very beginning, but I remember on my OG Ally, the boot up process in terms of like logging in, setting up my keyboard, there were a lot of bugs and glitches. I had to restart that process multiple times. Where here on the Ally X, not only was it a more seamless experience, there were no bugs, I was able to do everything that I needed to do on the first go. And in terms of user experience, I think that's something that is definitely really appreciated on my end of things. You're getting 1 terabyte of storage on the X over the 512 gigabytes of storage on the Ally, and you're getting 8 additional gigabytes of RAM over here on the X at 24 gigabytes of RAM versus the 16 on the Ally. Now the X is going to be a little bit thicker and actually weighs 70 grams more than the Ally, but I can say in the hand immediately, the very first thing that I noticed is not that the weight is different so much, but more so that the grips on the X curve and accentuate my hands better than the Ally did. And in a vacuum, the Ally felt very comfortable in the hand, but picking this up and using it alongside it, immediately I noticed the difference. And so for me, this is still a comfortable in the hand experience, not as heavy as the Lenovo Legion Go, which is a very heavy device, and comfortable enough where I can easily hold this up suspended in the air if I needed to and play all of my AAA games. Go alongside that, the part where your palms actually contact the body, on the Ally X it's more sloped now versus more of a harsh cut on the original Ally. And for me personally, I think that adds to the comfort too. Now this here for me is actually a huge plus, and this is something that I personally wanted on a new Ally iteration. It's not saying I'm the reason that this is here, but it's nice to see it. Where now the fingerprint sensor is situated closer to the trigger button. And so when you pick up your Ally X and you actually want to go turn it on, it's much easier to just reach over here because it's closer to your natural resting position. Definitely a huge plus. Now, something you guys are never going to see because it's inside of the body is that the X actually has smaller fans than the OG Ally. And ASUS's claim here is that you're actually getting an additional 24% of airflow in the X over the OG. And anecdotally, I can definitely say that playing like Cyberpunk 2077, playing Guardians of the Galaxy, and Madden all on those 25 watt modes, not only is the X cooler in the hand, I also noticed that on the 25 watt mode and the 30 watt mode, it's actually also quieter than the Ally, and the Ally wasn't super loud to begin with. Also, the thumbsticks here are actually a little bit closer to the body. There's actually a little cup that, in my experience, grips the tip of your thumb better for gameplay sessions. And the biggest difference, on the original Ally, the dead zones were a little finicky and the thumbsticks were a bit loose, and so sometimes, depending on the game that you were playing, wasn't the greatest experience. In the software, they added the dead zone and anti-dead zone sliders, so you could customize the feel to what felt best for you during gameplay. But I find that with the thumbsticks here, I'm not so inclined to go into the settings and change those things because right out of the box, they don't feel loose, they feel much tighter. And in the heat of action, if I'm playing, say, Destiny or Cyberpunk or something, they feel great. The thumbsticks here, for me at least, are definitely an improvement. Most people's SD cards were becoming overheated or burning up and then basically killing any of their information on there. I personally never had this problem, but ASUS makes a really big improvement here, moves it all the way over to this side so that way it's in a cooler area on the body. More than likely, those SD card problems are going to be a thing of the past. I don't anticipate that that's something that's going to continue happening in the future. Now again, when I first got into the Ally, I went in blind, and so I went in with the assumption that it was just a gaming console, but what made me fall in love with the Ally outside of the gaming was when I realized that it's not just a gaming console, it's also a PC in your hand that you can actually hook up to your monitor, and it runs the way you would expect your Windows PC to operate, right? So for example, my day job is that of a clinical therapist, and so there's a specific software that we use that's Windows based that I can actually access on the Ally to do all of my clinical work if I need to. So I can be playing, say, Spider-Man swinging through New York City, and then in a moment's notice, if I need to, I have a mouse and keyboard and I can do all of my clinical work in that capacity as well. Another practical life example is that my fiance Marie and I are currently looking for some homes. We're looking at wedding venues and things like that. And so I can hook this up to my monitor. I can have the wedding venue information on the top in an Excel spreadsheet. I can have Zillow down here searching up homes, and I can also have the game on at the same time. This is also important and integral to the rest of this process, but it's amazing that in this form factor, you have high fidelity, high performing games, and you also have a station where you can do all of your outside of gaming life things as well. And if you ask me, as a full package, I find that remarkable, and that can bridge the gap not only between your entertainment, but also like your real life, practical productivity things as well, all together in one package. This thing is amazing. Now on the back of the Ally X, you're actually getting smaller accessibility option buttons here, which I actually prefer because it feels like you're less prone to accidentally tap them. Now my favorite way to utilize this is for gyro support, which the OG Ally did fantastically, but like say here, for example, if I'm aiming at Cyberpunk 2077, I have no gyro, but I can hold the button, and now I can maneuver my aim any direction that I want. And what's great is that in the settings, you can configure this gyro settings. You can have it for the M1, the M2. You can actually toggle it with any of the buttons that you want. For me, I like having the gyro on that M1 button. You can even control dead zone, anti-dead zone, smoothing. So having that here is fantastic. And I think that those accessibility buttons and gyro support here on the Ally X and the Ally are some of the best examples in the business. Battery life on any given day for myself personally, and pretty much no matter who I talk to about the original Ally, was something that left a lot to be desired, right? I mean, if you're playing, say, like a AAA game, like say Cyberpunk, you're playing it at that 25 watts to get the best performance and the best graphical fidelity that you can out of the device. You were looking at like maybe an hour worth of battery life before you had to either go to a wall, plug it in, or if you knew that you were going to be playing, you had it plugged into a power bank for an extended period of time. I personally used an Inui power bank that was a 25,000 watt hour power bank that could also maintain the 65 watts needed to keep this topped up the entire time that I was playing my AAA games. But the Ally X right now has the largest battery capacity of any of the handhelds out in the market right now. And so you're going from 40 over on the Ally to 80 over here on the Ally X. And it makes a substantial difference in terms of battery life, right? I'm able to play Cyberpunk 2077, Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm able to play Forza and Spider-Man for like that 2+ hours worth of battery lifetime on this. And it's nice not feeling like it's mandatory that I have to be attached to a power bank. I can comfortably take this downstairs, be on a couch, and not feel like I have to bring the power bank so I can play my AAA games with my family and stuff. It's a massive difference, and I really have to give ASUS their kudos for making that improvement because it's made a world of a difference. Now on paper, it doesn't seem like there'd be any improvements performance-wise because you're still getting the Z1 Extreme chipset on both the Ally and the Ally X. However, testing both on a large variety of different games like Cyberpunk, Forza, and Guardians of the Galaxy, it's pretty apparent that you're actually getting a several frame increase per each of the games. And to give you an example, I was actually able to run Guardians of the Galaxy with ray tracing enabled and with the AMD fluid motion frames, and was able to get really strong FPS performance looking around like that 45 to 50 FPS mark, where ray tracing was just harming the FPS on the original Ally a bit too much. On the Ally X with the additional 8 GB of RAM, there's additional overhead, and I'm able to get better performance on basically every single game that I play. Now, is there going to be a massive leap as though you were getting like a true successor with a completely new chipset? No, but if you were looking for an additional few for FPS, like 7, 8, 9, sometimes 10, depending on the game, the extra boost of performance is definitely welcome. Now, speaking of the heat, I don't know about you guys, but here it's been about 105 degrees in terms of like the real feel. It has been swelteringly hot, and this Drio air circulator is a smart fan that I've had in my room next to my desk with me at all times, which is light, does not take up a lot of room at all, which is a huge plus. Also is incredibly strong while being quiet at the same time, and so I'm able to have this on while say I'm editing, which for you guys, which is a lot of the time. And this fan is smart in a couple of different ways. Oh, and you have the convenience of doing this. Hey Google, turn on air circulator.
Okay, turning on air circulator.
Nice. Including app control. Now down at the base you have a bunch of different options for the fan speed settings, the direction that you want the fan to oscillate in with its rotating head. Now where the smart comes in is actually in the application itself, so you never actually have to get up to press any of those buttons down there. Press this button right here. So you have like your normal wind mode. For me, I actually prefer the natural. Now the natural is going to simulate more of the wind that you would experience if you were outside. So it's going to go up in intensity and down in intensity, kind of like the breeze if you were sitting outside on a chair or a hammock. You're able to control the oscillation direction. And the coolest thing for me, I had no idea these things even existed, you can actually change the direction that the fan moves it. This shows you the temperature in the application. You can also set it for updates. Over that month, I've really got to appreciate everything that this does. This has been in my room every single day helping cool me off. So if you guys are looking for one for yourself to keep yourself cool, I'll have a link in the description down below for you so you can try one out for yourself. And I think that about covers everything I think you guys would probably be interested in if you're searching up reviews for this on the embargo date. Again, I like to focus more on like the practical aspects of tech and how it can complement you guys' lifestyle. But I'm just one person. I can't possibly have everyone's experience. So it's possible that I definitely miss things, and if that's the case, please let me know in the comment section down below. I'll get to as many of you guys as I possibly can, because part of the fun of this YouTube thing for me is interacting with you guys, answering your questions. So please let me know. But long story short, in basically every conceivable way, this has been a better handheld experience than the OG Ally, and it's great that ASUS saw that they had a product with a great starting base and they knew they could build on top of it, and this is definitely it. But thank you guys so much again for stopping by and hanging out. Wish you a fantastic remainder of your day, afternoon, or night, depending on the time it is you're watching this, because time zones and stuff. And as always, peace, love, adios, bye guys, and have a great day.